I've been a real estate agent for almost 5 years now, and I've witnessed a lot of people just like what I call cosplaying as a real estate agent. They're just stuck in the mud, just spinning their wheels, doing a bunch of shit that doesn't matter. And so I'm making this video to say, just please, if you're a new realtor, a new real estate agent, don't do these things. How's it going, y'all? My name is Jesse Lynch. I run multiple real estate teams around the United States, and on this channel and in general, I'm really interested in helping people and working with people who want to do things differently. So if that's you, subscribe to the channel, come hang out for a while. If it's not, if you want to go a real traditional route, this channel is not for you. You should probably click away, go watch something else. And if you're at all interested in working with me and my team or at Real Broker, go to my website, jesselynch.co. And if you're interested in working with me and or my team, or just joining Real Broker, you can go to my website, jesselynch.co. There's a bunch of information about sort of how that could potentially work. And maybe I'll make a video on that concept because I got a comment on that pretty recently. Anyway, jesselynch.co. Look forward to hearing from you. On this video, we're just talking about the first 11-ish things to do. And I have a pretty big list of things not to do as well. And I want to start with those because if you can just not do the things that you shouldn't be doing, you'll have a head start, right? So first of all, don't do these things. Number one, do not waste your money on things that you don't need. I know you don't necessarily know what you don't need if you're a brand new realtor, but don't waste your money on clothes, okay? Don't go buy a suit because that's what you think what realtors wear. Don't buy a name tag, right? Don't go put a branded hat on. I personally think that that stuff does not matter at all. Don't buy swag from your brokerage. Don't go buy a car, right? Because you think you need a new car. Like I promise whoever you work with will be like pretty accepting of whatever vehicle that you're driving. If you have a nice car or whatever, if you have any car, don't go put a wrap on your car. Don't buy graphics, right, for the car so you can put a logo on it. Like that stuff does not matter. Certainly don't buy one of those magnets from Vistaprint that people just slap on the side of their door. Nobody's calling that. I promise you, that will not get you a client. Don't waste money on signage, okay? Your whatever brokerage or team you join, maybe make sure that's one of the questions you're asking. Do you have signage that I can use so I don't have to spend like $1,000 on some open house signs? I think as you're getting started, you're just throwing your money away because likely some of your branding will change. So you'll spend all this money and effort and time on getting a sign going, and eventually it's going to be obsolete. I mean, you might even change brokerages, right? So don't throw your money at things like open house signs or for sale signs or anything really like that. Banners, you know, whatever people think is the right thing to do. Don't waste money on online leads. I'm going to talk a lot about that on this video. People are going to, for one, try to sell you online leads. There's going to be a lot of information out there. You're going to see some people maybe being somewhat successful with online leads, or at least perceived to be. You're going to talk to people within your brokerage or team, more than likely, who have had some success with online leads. I personally think that it is a complete waste of money, time, and energy, which we're going to talk about in a little bit. So don't waste your money on online leads. And maybe there are better ways of going about it, but just make sure it's like a vetted online lead platform and that you have somebody who can show you the best way to convert those. Somebody who's genuinely very, very good at that. Otherwise, I think you might as well light your money on fire. Speaking of lighting money on fire, people love to spend money early on like a really fancy CRM. CRM is customer relation manager, right? Something like that. People love the idea that like, if only they have this incredible CRM that they're gonna, you know, dominate the real estate industry. I personally believe that that is pretty pointless early on. Again, unless you're really gonna go down the online lead platform, then a good CRM would be helpful. But most brokerages should have some sort of beginner, not that advanced version of a CRM. If your brokerage doesn't, I kind of think like, why would you be there? Every brokerage wants to tout that like their CRM software is like the best and it's the reason to join that brokerage. I just disagree. I don't think a CRM is a reason to join a brokerage. For one, Even if it's $1,000 a month or something like that, it's a really advanced CRM. My personal belief is that a CRM is not a reason to join a brokerage, just that they provide that. For one, they're probably publicly available and you could pay for them if you wanted, but I think it should be a much more holistic look at what a brokerage offers rather than just a CRM. And I kind of think spending money to upgrade your CRM would be like tricking out a car that you have not figured out how to get out of first gear. Like, what is the point of having 1,000 horsepower on a vehicle that you literally cannot figure out how to get into second gear? Just make sure that you are cruising and you have a really good grasp of the basic CRM before you even bother thinking about upgrading it. And then last thing that I can think of, not to waste your money on, are out-of-the-box social media campaigns. I gotta say, there's nothing I find cringier than an out-of-the-box social media campaign where you have stock photos, stock text. It's like you got a picture of some people with moving boxes off of Pond 5, or if that still exists. You know, you're like, moving is hard, so we have great partners with a moving. It's like, dude, nobody cares about that. Nobody who's following you, none of your friends are going to be convinced to work with you because you posted a stock image. People know that you aren't taking the stock image. So what are you doing, right? Just know that nobody is fooled by your stock social media out of the box campaign. And the next thing is, don't waste time on superficial shit. I know that a lot of what I just talked about, a lot of those money wasters, it's also time wasters. It's just absolute time sucks. So don't waste your money on those, and by proxy, you will not be wasting your time on those things as well. And so don't waste your time on things like business cards, right? Very like beginner stage branding ideas. Don't waste time on developing a logo or a slogan or, my God, an icon, right? Like, oh, well, first I'm gonna need my 1x1 pixel icon to be consistent with my brand. It doesn't matter. That stuff does not matter, and it will not be the thing that makes you successful in real estate. If eventually you have a really well-rounded logo that works really nicely with stuff, cool. But don't spend all this time focusing on creating that or finding somebody to create, you one of those things. Don't waste time creating a business entity. I've seen so many people who they get started in real estate, like the day they get started, and then they create an LLC, right? And maybe they file as an S Corp or something like that. It's like, dude, you don't need to file as an S Corp the day you got licensed in real estate. This isn't tax advice, so, maybe your tax guy says otherwise. But like, I kind of think you don't even need a tax guy unless you have complicated finances otherwise. But most people, when they come into real estate, they're leaving a kind of a normal W-2 job. And they probably don't have a tax guy for that. They're probably using TurboTax because they have really simple finances. And the idea that you have to go get an accountant and then you're filing an LLC and filing that as an S Corp, those are massive time wasters, in my opinion. There's this idea that in order to do anything, I have to be all the way set up. I didn't set up an LLC right when I got started. And what happens is, just by default, you are a sole proprietor. And there's a lot of information about if you make more than $60,000 or something like that. Once you're above that dollar amount in a year, then it becomes potentially worth it to become an S Corp in real estate. But this is not tax advice. I don't even know. I think it's all a waste of energy to be thinking about that and be, okay, should I be an LLC or, a C Corp? Or it just doesn't matter. So please, just don't waste your time on those things early on. How about first make a sale, right? First have a single client who closes. First make $1 off of real estate before bothering with any of that. Don't waste time starting a business bank account or a separate bank account, my personal opinion. Just figure that out eventually, make money first, and really just don't waste your time coming up with new ideas. You're a real estate agent, right? You're not a pontificator. You're not getting paid. Well, for one, you're not getting paid at all until you're getting paid. But you're not getting paid to just think about things. You're not Play-Doh, right? Not the toy, the guy who thinks about things. That is not what you're doing. You obviously have to come up with a plan, but don't just think that coming up with new plan after new plan after new plan after new plan is actually doing real estate. There's the idea of shiny object syndrome. I have been guilty of this before in other endeavors, and there are little things in real estate that I've gotten, right? I've taken my eye off the ball. The one thing that I've mostly been quite good at is somehow managing to focus on the most important stuff. And I've learned the hard way that when you stop focusing on that stuff, it's dumb and it's a total waste of time. So don't just think that you coming up with ideas and new ways that you're gonna do it and looking into new lead generation sources, that is not doing the work, in my opinion. The only thing that's doing the work is actually doing the work. And then the third thing that you just can't be doing is wasting your energy. And I think obviously wasting time, which I just said, is really similar to wasting energy. But I actually mean don't spend time on things that suck the energy out of you. So for example, online leads. My personal belief is that those are energy vampires. They are the least effective way of acquiring clients. And it's gonna be the worst possible way that you could do this job, in my opinion. Unless your brain really thinks that way in terms of lead generation and follow-up, and those are things that you're really comfortable with, if that's how you wanna do it, this isn't the channel for you. We don't do that here. That's not what we're talking about on this channel, and I will have no insight for you on that. I genuinely believe that, because I honestly think that the online lead generation world, whatever you wanna call it, is a massive waste of energy. Don't waste your energy paying attention to Facebook groups, right? Or like Reddit groups or anything like that. I even think there are plenty of funny memes out there on like Broke Agent and stuff like that. They're funny, and you might follow them thinking like, oh, I'm a realtor now, I should be paying attention to these things. But there's so much goddamn negativity on those that it's just gonna make you feel disheartened. And I think this industry is already kind of chaotic enough, and it can be challenging enough that the last thing you need is other people's negativity around you. I've been at a brokerage, in a brokerage meeting where there's like a person in the room who is super negative, an energy vampire, right? And they're just bringing the whole room down. And you don't necessarily realize it, but like it makes you feel a certain way where you're like, God dang, it takes the life out of you. And I think that a Facebook group or a Reddit group or these kind of like negative memes or whatever related to real estate, I think they do the same thing. They just take a little bit out of you, right? Maybe you go, that's funny, it's funny. But like all they're doing is just like, here's a little bit of your soul just gone because now you have a little bit of a negative connotation around what you're doing. And I love what I do. And I think that how we do things here is the coolest, most exciting possible way that a person could do a real estate. And then I think lastly, don't waste energy or don't let the life get sucked out of you by somewhat slow results. Real estate takes a while. Building a brand takes a while. And so just know that as long as you're doing the things that are on the list, the things that you should be doing, as long as you're doing those things reliably, that it will come, right? There will be results at the end of potentially a long road. And those results should be and could be life-changing. And speaking of getting disheartened, I think the fourth thing that you should not do when you become a real estate agent is let desperation ruin your reputation. I think reputation in the industry, reputation with the people who you know, with your sphere, if you want to use a real estate term, will be massively important to you. You're going to hear the term in real estate, people will say, find people who know, like, and trust you. Trust, right? That's the third thing. So if you are being disingenuous, if you are clearly out for money, then the people who know and liked you will stop trusting you, and they'll probably stop liking you, and eventually you won't know them. There's a term that I really enjoy and I find to be really appropriate in real estate and also just in sales in general. It's called commission breath. And I think everybody deep down understands what that is. You've been to a clothing store or something like that where they make commission and they're trying to push something on you and you're like, what the hell? I do not want that. I am not interested in this thing. And why are you trying to upcharge me on that, right? And it's because they get a commission. And once you kind of realize that and you put two and two together, you go, oh, this person's just desperate and they're just trying to push me. And you get a whiff of commission breath. Avoid commission breath at all costs. And I believe that a lot of that comes from being desperate. So try really hard to make sure that you're not in a position where you're desperate. It takes a little while to make money in real estate. I made money in real estate, I would say, uncommonly fast. I had a closing within like a handful of months, maybe 3 months of when I started. That's really, really uncommon. And even that, 3 months is a while to not make any money, to be working, 50, 60, 70 hours a week, like grinding and not making a single penny. And while I was doing all that, while I was busting my ass and working 70 hours a week, I could see people, I was around people who clearly had commission breath, right? And I was like, I know when they're talking to somebody, when they get a lead on the phone or whatever, there's no way they're not like salivating, right? There's no way that they're coming across as like genuine and cool and collected and like maybe however they would like to come across, because they are out of pocket, right? They clearly are not in a comfortable situation. And if that lead, right, that client who you're talking to is somebody you know and somebody who knows a lot of people that you know, or anybody that you know, your reputation is on the line. So protect your reputation, don't have commission breath, don't be desperate. And part of protecting your reputation, in my opinion, is not faking it until you make it. Have you ever been to the likes of like a Home Depot and you're asking for something that you're familiar with? You're just like, all I need is 3/4 inch PVC pipe. I need 6 feet of it, right? And somebody's like, oh yeah, we don't have that. And you're like, yeah, you do. Or you're like, I need a P-trap for a bathroom sink. If you don't know what these things are, by the way, probably skip forward like 20 seconds. But just know that these are things that, if you're at all familiar with a house, you probably would go, okay, sure, I know what that is. And the person working there says, oh yeah, so I have this thing. It's this flexible, P-trap. It's flexible PVC. But maybe you know that flexible PVC wouldn't pass code, right? And so you're like, well, this guy doesn't know what he's talking about. Can I talk to somebody who knows what they're talking about, right? Putting yourself in a situation like that where you pretend like you know what the answer is, but the other person knows that you don't know what the answer is exquisitely easy in real estate, because certain things just require a little bit of effort to find the answer to. And so it's possible that whoever you're talking with has a pretty good grasp on what the real answer is, or they're close to it, right? They're 90% the way there. And you might be 50% the way to the answer, right? Where you're like, oh, I kind of know the context of this. And if you say, oh yeah, it's this, and they're like, no, it's not, credibility gone. And it's gonna be pretty much impossible to get back. So when you don't know things, admit that you don't know things. People don't care that you don't know things automatically. People want you to do the work. People who hire you are hiring you so that they don't have to do the work. At some point, they're hiring you for expertise, right? But there's also just like, hey, I don't know, I can't do all this stuff. I can't go get the license. There's all this stuff that I don't want to do. And you've done that. You've gotten that far. And now here's a little bit more that I don't want to do. And that's why I'm paying you to do these things. So make sure that you're not bullshitting people. Make sure that you're not faking it until you make it. People can see through that, and it will ruin your credibility. It will ruin your reputation. Just do the work until you make it. It's probably going to be infinite, right? Technology is going to change. That if I'm still doing this in 30 years, that'll be pretty old, but if I'm still doing this in 20 years, there will be new things that have hit the scene as it pertains to a house and technology within a house and technology within house buying that I'll be like, I don't know. I'll have to look. I've never seen this. This is new, right? I have to figure out what this is. And people will go, okay, it's reasonable that a person would have to figure out what some of these things are. And speaking of potentially still doing this in 20 years, don't model yourself after the dinosaurs. Don't model yourself after the people who are on their way out of the industry. I think real estate is a very fast-moving industry, and you'll see that people who have been doing it for a long time will be very resistant to change. I went to a presentation by the MLS following some of the NAR change laws, and the people who had been in the industry for a long time were pretty up in arms about the changes. I've been doing this for a bit under 5 years, and the changes are, it's like, wow, that's okay. These are things we have to figure out. But people have been doing it for 20 years. they're just like, why would it change? It's been so good for so long, but just know that change is inevitable. And the reason that I like the dinosaur metaphor so much, I say it quite a bit on this channel, is because dinosaurs don't exist anymore. They're obsolete, right? They couldn't possibly exist. Imagine a dinosaur that existed on Earth right now. Like, it would not go well for that dinosaur. So in real estate too, these changes happen so fast, and things can be so new and so novel so often. It's up to you to be on the cutting edge and to try to stay ahead of that wave. And so as a brand new agent, just know that there are teams and brokerages and solo agents who would be a mentor to you, who are forward thinking. It's only going forward. And so don't model yourself after people who are on their way out. And I would say don't join brokerages that are on their way out, right? And I genuinely believe that if you just avoid this list of pitfalls, this list of things that just, people get so stuck in, they just get in a rut. If you avoid all of those things, you will by default get ahead. And I also have a video out called the first 11-ish things to do when you become a realtor. So go check that out.